You know how it is. One rude comment, one frustrating person, and boom, your whole day is just thrown off. We've all been there. But what if it didn't have to be that way? In this explainer, we're going to break down how you can get total control over your emotional reactions, so you can walk through pretty much any situation completely unbothered.
Seriously, just stop and think about that for a second. Imagine someone's bad mood, their snarky little comment, or whatever frustrating thing they're doing. Imagine it having absolutely zero power over you. That's not a superpower. It's a skill. And that's the kind of freedom we're talking about today.
Look, we spend so much energy trying to get other people to change, right? To fix their behavior. But let's be real, that's a game you can't win. The real secret, the only thing you actually have 100% control over, is your own response. And that, right there, is where all your power lies.
So why do we get so triggered in the first place? You might think it's the person or the situation that's making you angry. But the truth is, the anger is actually getting sparked inside our own heads because we keep falling into these really predictable mental traps.
And it turns out there are three of them, three major emotional traps that keep us stuck in that reactive cycle. The cool thing is, once you learn to see them coming, you can just sidestep them. It's like having a cheat code for difficult interactions.
All right, so here they are. The personalization trap, the expectation trap, and the control trap. Let's dive into what each of these actually looks and feels like in the real world.
First up, the personalization trap. This is your brain's default setting for drama. Someone cuts you off in traffic, and what's the first thought? That jerk did that to me. You instantly make it a personal attack. But the reality, they were probably just lost in their own world, maybe late for something, not even thinking about you. This trap makes you the main character in a negative story that you don't even need to be in.
Next up, the expectation trap. The shoulds, you know? He should have been on time. She should be more respectful. We walk around with this secret rule book for how everyone else is supposed to act, and when they inevitably break our rules, we get frustrated. By letting go of those rigid expectations, you free yourself from a ton of unnecessary anger.
And the last one is the control trap. This is the one where we think if we just get angry enough or frustrated enough, the other person will have a sudden epiphany and change their ways. I mean, let's be honest with ourselves. How often does that actually work? Yeah, pretty much never. Getting angry just puts them on defense and burns up your own precious energy.
Now, what's fascinating is what's actually going on inside your brain when you fall into one of these traps. There's a real biological reason you lose your cool, and it happens unbelievably fast. The easiest way to think about it is that you have two brains. You've got your rational brain, the logical, thoughtful part, and then you have your ancient alarm brain, your amygdala. Now, this alarm brain is great if you're being chased by a tiger. The problem is, it can't tell the difference between a real threat and a mean email. So when it senses a threat, any threat, it hits the panic button and hijacks the whole system.
And this just shows you how fast it all goes down. The trigger happens, and literally in milliseconds, your alarm brain takes over. For the next 6 to 20 seconds, stress hormones like adrenaline are just flooding your body. And during this time, your rational brain is completely offline. It's out to lunch. For minutes, maybe even hours, you are not thinking. You are just reacting.
Okay, so that's the problem. But here is the really good news. This hijack, it's not a done deal. Because it's a process, you can interrupt it. So let's talk about a super simple two-step defense system you can use to stop it dead in its tracks. Your defense system has just two parts. First, there's the pause protocol. Think of this as your emergency brake to stop the hijack as it's happening. And second is the reframe revolution. This is how you change the story in your head so the hijack doesn't even get started.
This quote, it says it all. This is the heart of the pause protocol. The stimulus, that's the trigger, the thing that happens. The response is your reaction. Our goal is to create just a tiny little bit of space between those two things. Because in that little gap, that's where your power is. That's where you get to choose how you respond instead of just reacting.
So how do you create that space? It's almost ridiculously simple. You breathe. But specifically, like this. A slow inhale for 4 seconds, hold it for 4, and then a long, slow exhale for 6 seconds. That longer exhale is the magic trick. It literally activates your body's relaxation response, puts the brakes on those stress chemicals, and gives your rational brain a chance to get back in the driver's seat.
And this is where you become the author of your own emotions. You change the feeling by changing the story. Look at these examples. The triggering story, my boss is trying to make me look bad. That's a classic personalization trap, right? But what if you reframed it?
She has high standards and wants me to succeed. It's not about being naive. It's about choosing the story that serves you better. I mean, why would you ever choose the story that makes you miserable? All right, so we've got our tools, the pause and the reframe. Now let's get practical and talk about how to use these with some of the trickiest personality types you're going to run into out there.
Now, while every person is different, a lot of difficult behaviors fall into these predictable patterns or archetypes. You've got the aggressive dominator, the passive-aggressive type, the emotional vampire who just drains your energy, and the narcissistic attention seeker. Just being able to spot which pattern you're up against is half the battle. It lets you respond strategically instead of just reacting.
So let's just take one example. The aggressive dominator. Their whole game is intimidation. They want one of two things, for you to fight back or for you to just collapse and give in. The winning move? Do neither. As you can see, the strategy is to stay completely calm, intentionally lower and slow down your voice. You refuse to get sucked into their emotional storm. It completely de-escalates things and keeps you in control of the situation, not them. And really, that's what all of this is about. It isn't about ignoring problems or becoming a doormat. It's about handling life from a place of calm, centered strength. So I'll leave you with this question to think about. Who could you become at your job, in your family, in your life, if absolutely no one had the power to bother you ever again?